Coming up on this episode of One-on-One Sports,
we'll be ranking the newest uniforms in Major League Baseball,
break down the college football playoffs,
and a wild start to the college hoop season.
All that and so much more.
And it all starts
right now.
From the Chris Edwards desk in the Jane and Brian Williams studio, welcome to this week's edition of 101 Sports. I'm Javik Blake.
And I'm Andrew Vandellis. It's been a wild week of sports, so let's step up to the plate for the quick hitters. This Sunday in Atlanta, Colin Kaepernick looked to have an NFL workout set with over 20 teams attending, but just 30 minutes before the workout, he rescheduled to a local high school where only 4 teams attended. Javik, was this a publicity stunt by Kaepernick, and is there any chance we see him back in the NFL?
Well, this is interesting for a lot of reasons.
Yeah.
One, Colin Kaepernick's 32 years old. Hasn't played in the league since 2016 when the Niners went 1-10.
It's worth noting also that he wasn't the same quarterback that led them to the Super Bowl.
Very true, and it's been a while since he's played not just a down of NFL football, any sort of football. I don't understand why he hasn't gone to Canada, why when the AAF came knocking, he didn't do anything, and he is not going to the XFL.
I just think he made it too complicated. I, for one, among the many people who think he should have a shot with an NFL team or a professional football team in general, everything was set up in a great facility with a solid camera and media present. Literally everything was in place. I don't know why he wanted to downgrade it to a high school with little presence, but, you know, Cap should get another shot in the league, as I said. But he's not up to par where he was in 2016. Remember, he had that one game where he only threw for 4 yards as well, and he was benched for Blaine Gabbert. I think he deserves a shot, though, even if it's as a backup. I just don't get why he would intentionally move when literally everything was set up.
That's what I don't understand about any of this ordeal. He had the chance to get back into the NFL, but it seems like he's not actively trying to do it, which is what I really don't understand.
I don't think he wants attention. I just think he kind of botched his whole tryout. But I think the XFL, this is a great opportunity to scoop up a great talent.
It would be. And for
Vince
the first
McMahon, take notes.
There we go. For the first time since 2018, Carmelo Anthony is finally back in the NBA after signing with the Portland Trail Blazers and played his first game on Tuesday night in New Orleans. Now, Andrew, can Portland be the place where we see MELO get back to being the MELO we all know and love?
Let's slow down a little bit. Because remember, you know, the MELO we know and love was 2010, 2011, something like that. This is great for him, though. I think he can be a solid 6-man, or, you know, they had him starting in his first game. I think his performance with the Trailblazers, I know we have a small sample size, but it proves that there's a place for him in this league. I just don't think it's a starter. I just don't think he can carry the same load that he did. I know we talked about load management on the show last week. If we utilize that with Carmelo smartly, if Portland does, 10 points, 4 rebounds, a block in 24 minutes in his first game, that's great for him. I would try to average him out around 18, 25 minutes a game. And I think he's a great role player and a great big man still in this league. I just don't think you can have all the expectations on him. I think this is a great role with Lillard, McCollum, all those stars in Portland. And I think they could, make a decent playoff push with this.
And he's now 35, 36 years old. He's not the same player. He'll never be the same player he was in Denver. But if Portland uses him right, I could see him getting back to maybe some of those good years with the Knicks. And more than anything else, he'll be a great veteran leader on this Blazers team.
Exactly. And now, at this point in his career, he doesn't have to carry a team on his shoulders. He doesn't have to worry about being under, the top 5 market in basketball that the Knicks are, even if their quality doesn't reflect that. But, Portland's a great spot for him. It's a great area for him to, be a mentor for younger talent as well. And I think overall, this is great. Shout out Towson Catholic, by the way, RIP, but it produced Carmelo Anthony, 10 minutes from my house. Love it. I think this is great for MELO.
I think it is.
Last Thursday, when Myles Garrett, with a Y, swung his helmet at Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph, one of the people subject to a slew of Twitter attacks was One-on-One and ELON alumnus Myles Garrett, a reporter for WSBT in Indiana, who spells Myles with an I. Javik, what did you make of an interesting mix-up and a wild weekend for both Myles Garretts?
Well, one thing with Myles with an I feel bad for the guy's Twitter account.
Yeah.
Poor Myles with an I.
Apparently he gained like 200 followers or something.
Well, there we go.
That.
At least it worked in the positive for him. But it was a funny mix-up, and honestly, at the end of the day, I just feel sorry for his Twitter notifications. He got an article on him on Barstool. It was a very funny thing. It's a great story for him to tell down the road. And another thing, if you're trying to sort of call athletes out on Twitter, make sure to check the handles so you aren't adding a reporter in Indiana
Please.
other than the actual Myles Garrett.
And this goes out for everyone on Twitter. Please proofread your tweets and think twice before you send out some dumb stuff.
Exactly.
Also, but Myles, we miss you, buddy. Open invitation to the show. We'd love to have you on, talk about it, whatever's going on in your world, have some takes. I love Myles. We worked with him. The other Myles, maybe not so much. But he got featured on ESPN Snapchat, the Sports Center thing. That's really cool. And one thing I saw, because I'm Facebook friends with him, he was spinning this into some positive publicity, and he even issued his own apology saying, hey, I'm sorry. And that just got him more traction, because people were like, how dare you? How could you? I just think, Myles is a smart guy. He's going to know how to turn this into some good attention for himself. Did a lot better than Cleveland's Myles Garrett. That's
Very
for sure.
much true. Myles Garrett's suspension, the Myles with a Y, upheld today in the NFL. But after a 3-4 start to the season that finds Tottenham in 14th place in the Premier League table, Hotspur sacked manager Mauricio Pochettino and hired Jose Mourinho. Is Mourinho the guy to turn things around?
This is a solid move for them, I think, but, it could be a knee-jerk reaction to the start. But when you think about Mourinho, he took an 11-month hiatus after being fired from Man U. And why was he fired? He lost support from his players and his staff, which I think he's doing a good job turning into a humbling experience, talking about, that he's ready to go back out there and they need to set a good standard early on. I don't disagree with it, but I do like what Mourinho said. He said, when I don't win, I'm not happy. I can't change that. That is a vicious mentality that I think a team like Tottenham, who finished second in the Champions League, needs to show.
I think it's exactly what they need to show, and they've been struggling as of recent. They're missing Hugo Lloris for their last 4 matches. They're 0-3-2 in their last 5 with losses at Brighton and a draw at Everton. They play West Ham this weekend, a team in the bottom half of the table. It's a must-win for them, and they got to hold the basically standing water until Hugo Lloris comes back, because when Lloris comes back, you have Harry Kane up top, and it's a great team.
Is the first win, is this going to be like a defining win, or do you think it's going to be a couple of games or a couple matches where we're going to have to see how Mourinho's doing and if it's working out?
I think it's going to take a couple of matches for this team to get used to his coaching style, his managerial style, but you're against West Ham, a team that is awful this year. They need to pick it up, and they need to win this match because it's a big 3 points.
Keep in mind also, Tottenham hasn't won a title since 2008. Do you think Mourinho could be that guy, with his past success in Man U and Chelsea? He had that little stint as well. Do you think he can bring Tottenham back to not only Champions League, but more at a narrow level, the Premier League success?
I think the problem with this team is in the Premier League, you have Liverpool, you have Leicester City, you have a lot of great teams. And the problem is, I just don't think Tottenham's talented enough to compete with the Liverpools, Man Cities, and Leicester Cities of the world.
We're going to find out if Tottenham are pretenders or contenders. We'll have to see.
We will see.
That's all the time we have for the quick hitters.
Stick around. We've got some exciting stuff coming up here on 101 Sports. After partnering with Nike on a new 10-year jersey deal, many clubs in the MLB went back to the drawing board and recently released their news threads for the season. I'm joined at the desk by art connoisseur here on 101, Cole Noble, to break it all down, to decide which uniforms are hot and which uniforms are not. And first off, what are the 2 hottest uniforms released this season?
The first one, as a Milwaukee Brewers fan, I absolutely love their away Navy jerseys. I mean, what is there not to like? You got the navy, you got the bright yellow, perfect mix, absolutely phenomenal. And how about the new logo? Throwing it back
bringing
old
back the
school.
glove.
I love it, 100%. And then just the new special meaning behind it. I mean,
the special meaning, a lot of different elements being used throughout the logo, which is really big, but I love their whole new set, as well as the Padres set as well. The use of the pinstripes, a lot of teams going back to old school. You see the Padres bringing back brown and orange. You see the Brewers bringing back the royal blue and the gold. It looks beautiful, and it gives baseball that sort of old school feel, which I love.
Yeah, I love the old school feel. And then, like you said, all the jersey combinations, the new logo especially. But a little new school, how about the Arizona Diamondbacks coming out with their new jerseys? The black jerseys and then the Sedona Reds.
The Sedona Reds are
absolutely
unbelievable.
Nice. They're breathtaking, and the black and Sedona, like I said, just amazing. It could have been a lot more cleaner, a little bit more simplified, but I did like how they got rid of the design.
Snakeskin just wasn't working. We saw that a
it.
couple of years. That was a little gimmicky, and now they cleaned it up. It looks like a Major League uniform rather than something you'd see back in the Southern League in AA.
Exactly.
They've made it big league, and it looks great. But moving on to jerseys that might not be so hot, a little bit cold. What do you got?
Has anyone seen the new Cincinnati Reds jerseys? They're just absolutely awful. I mean,
It is a red jersey for the Reds, so I guess you got to give them credit because back in the early 2000s, they had a black jersey when they were the Reds, which doesn't exactly make sense.
yeah, but it's just straight. Their new alternates, just straight red. Says Reds right across the middle, not even lined up. The E is over here, the D and the S are way over here. Makes no sense. I mean, it's too bright, no contrast. Like I said, there's no whites. That's what I do like about their new spring training. But the new spring training, they got Mr. Red Legs right front and center on the chest with the numbers on the other side.
On the chest of the jersey for spring training?
For their spring training, they have Mr. Red Legs right here, front and center.
I mean, I guess that's not that bad, but what I really didn't like was the D-backs, yes, their new uniform combination is really solid. The white is beautiful. The gray, toning that down a lot, is great. But what I didn't like is their new teal-trimmed alt. It just seems a little bit too fresh and vibrant for a team that looked like they were trying to tone things down, and then you release a jersey that basically has neon teal. It's a little bit weird.
I had to look into it because neon teal is one of their secondary colors, but you can't put a neon color with a primary color like red on the trimming around the numbers. Like I said, I am a fan of black jerseys, but that neon and the primary red just isn't a good
It seems like a little bit black for black's sake.
Yeah.
But the Nationals released a new jersey as well. A little bit interesting, throwing it back. They released a new hat with the old Senators logo, which is beautiful. But the jersey's just a little bit plain.
Yeah, it's definitely bland. I mean, it's just a white jersey. It says Nationals. Where's their creativity team? You got to have some kind of team that makes these kind of jerseys. And you're with Nike now. You know 100% Nike has some creativity teams. And then just make the jerseys a little bit better.
Exactly.
But the new hats with the Capitol building on it, those look pretty fresh.
The Capitol building looks beautiful. The old Senators logo with the pitcher throwing the ball from back. Their second iteration in Washington looks beautiful as well. But that's all the time we have with our art connoisseur, Cole Noble. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll be right back on 101 Sports right after this.
With college football season winding down and bowl season right around the corner, it's time to see which 4 teams will be making the coveted college football playoff. I'm joined by college football analyst Gray Ost to see who's in and who's out. Gray, your first team in.
First team in, the obvious number 1 is going to be the LSU Tigers. Go ahead and click that for me. And they're obviously led by Heisman frontrunner Joe Burrow. He's got this in the bag as long as they win their last few games. They're also led by standout skill position players Clyde Edwards-Helaire, Jamar Chase, and Justin Jefferson at the wide receiver position. 3 top 10 victories against Florida, Auburn, and 2 weeks ago against the Alabama Crimson Tide.
I was going to say, do they really have a weakness in their schedule coming up? Is there any team you see giving them a challenge?
Their next 2 games to finish out the regular season will be against Arkansas, who is the worst team in the Southeastern Conference, but then they have a home game against the ranked Texas A&M Aggies. But with the conference championship game already decided, they will be playing the Georgia Bulldogs, who's on this list. So will they be able to hold off against Georgia? I think they will. They'll go in the college football playoff number 1.
Virtually unstoppable, Joe Burrow, generational talent. Who's your second team in?
My second team will be the Ohio State Buckeyes, the eventual Big Ten champions. J.K. Dobbins and Justin Fields, a dynamic duo at running back and quarterback. Number 1 in total defense. Not just great offensively, but they're number 1 in total defense. They have the number 1 edge rusher in the country in Chase Young. Although he did miss 2 games, he still leads the NCAA in sacks, and this is a dynamic defense. Now, they do have a tough schedule coming up. They got Ohio State in the Horseshoe, and then they have at Michigan. Now, personally, I think they're going to blow Michigan out of the water. They have 7 straight wins against Michigan, and in the last 15 years, they are 14-1.
Can't forget that ugly loss to Ohio State that Jim Harbaugh hasn't quite shaken.
Jim Harbaugh hasn't really gotten that.
A couple of ugly losses, for that matter.
Haven't really gotten that win. I don't see it happening again this year. Ohio State's my number 2 team.
All right, number 3, who's in?
Number 3 is the biggest question mark in college football right now. It's going to be the Clemson Tigers. Clemson, as we know, reigning national champions, but they haven't really proven themselves this year. They're 11-0, the only 11-0 team in the country, but they haven't really played any major teams this year. They had Texas A&M, who's number 24 right now, but other than that, they haven't really played anybody. They've had a great defense, but they haven't really played anybody. That's their biggest question mark. Number 2 in total defense, Trevor Lawrence, throwing the ball, as we know, to Justin Ross, T. Higgins, great weapons, and Travis Etienne may be the second best running back in college football. I see Clemson number 3.
So number 4, what's your team?
Number 4.
Last team.
Last team that's going to make it in. A little bit of a shocker. Is it going to be a team in red? No, it's going to be that team in green and gold. Woo! It's going to be the Oregon Ducks, the eventual Pac-12 champion. They're going to get in. They have 2 week games coming up. Great quarterback play in Justin Herbert. Justin Herbert, one of 3 Division I quarterbacks with more than 25 touchdowns and less than 3 interceptions. Now they're going to go into that game against LSU with a bit of a question mark at running back. CJ Verdell, 814 rushing yards, has double-digit touchdowns, but he's been a little inconsistent. He ran for 257 rushing yards against Washington State, but then last week he only had 49 rushing yards.
So we're going to move on to the first 2 out. Give us a brief description of who they are and why they're out.
First one out is going to be the Alabama Crimson Tide, simply because they're going to run the table. They're going to finish 11-1, a great season, but you can't get in if you can't win your conference title, but also if you can't even win your division. That loss to LSU really hurt them.
And they lost to Tagovailoa as well.
And they lost to Tua.
So your second team out and why?
Second team out will be the Oklahoma Sooners. I just can't put in the Georgia Bulldogs. Utah's going to lose the conference title game, but Oklahoma's had a great season. That loss to Kansas State really hurt them. Jalen Hurts still on the Heisman. CeeDee Lamb has had a great season at wide receiver. So great season for the Sooners. Just that loss to Kansas State really cost them, and it's going to cost them a berth in the college football
Well, there you
playoff.
have it. That's all the time we have from the Gridiron. If you like what you saw and you want to see more, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe below at youtube.com/oneonOneSports.
The Premier League is in full swing and the competition is fierce. Through 12 games, the early season favorites Liverpool have a commanding lead over the rest of the table. Will managerial changes, league newcomers, or history get in the way of Liverpool in their quest for another title? I'm joined by Matt Laguza and Will Tunis as we discuss the latest news from across the pond. Matt, we're going to start with you. Leicester City, a great run this season. They currently sit second in the league table. Do they have a chance to make another historic run at the Premier League title?
No, they do not, because they've got one of the top teams in the world, Liverpool, 8 points ahead of them. I think they're going to do better than they did back in 15-16 when they did make that run. They had a total of 81 points that season. I think they're going to get to the upper 80s, maybe low 90s by the end of the season, but no one is going to be able to catch the Liverpool this year.
You see, my issue with that is when I look at Leicester's bench compared to their starting 11, which is absolutely amazing. We're talking Vardy, Maddison, Perez, Tielemans, the list goes on and on. They don't have the depth on the bench that the traditional top 6 teams do. So if you have, say, a Wilfred Ndidi go down with injury, or like a Jamie Vardy, I don't see anyone coming in to fill in that void, keeping the form. They are in great form, no doubt. I don't see anyone being able to help them keep that form up throughout the season.
But Leicester City, when they won that title, they didn't really have a deep bench. Jamie Vardy really carried this team. If he keeps this up and this team, we've seen them do fantastic all season long. Can Jamie Vardy carry them? Liverpool's going to end up winning the league with at least 110 points, you think. But will Leicester City be the people, or will Leicester City be the team to get that second spot in the league?
I don't think so. I actually think I think they're going to actually finish, I want to say, outside the top 4. Honestly, I think there have been some of the bigger names that have been struggling, and I think they will pick it up very soon, especially after this winter transfer window. And eventually, I think Leicester are a team that could drop points to those mid-table teams that you won't see the Chelseas, the Manchester Cities losing to.
All right, well, 38 match weeks in the Premier League. We've already had 12. Matt, who are your top 6 teams at the end of match week 38?
All right, for me, in order, first I've got Liverpool, obviously. They're the Giants right now in the Premier League. They're going to keep this going. They've got a commanding lead over the rest of the team. And they've got arguably one of the best front threes in the entire world with Salah, Mane, and Firmino. And then second, I've got my boys in blue, Chelsea, the young guns under Frank Lampard. They've been doing great so far. Tammy Abraham, one of the top scorers in the league. Conte has been very limited so far this season. And you've got Antoine Rudiger, who's also been out from injury, who's going to shore up the defense. And Cesar Azpilicueta has been absolutely atrocious so far to start off this season. So if you can get them back, they're going to be great.
So 3, 4, 5, who do you got?
3, 4, 5, I've got Man City, Leicester, Tottenham, and Man United. I was considering putting Sheffield United in over Man United, but Man United has a little more experience, and I think they're going to be able to pull it off over Sheffield.
All right, so who are your top 6?
Right now, I got the champions, 3rd year in a row, Manchester City. I know.
Winning the league.
Yes, I did.
Over Liverpool.
Yes. This kind of happened again last year. At Christmas, Liverpool were 7 points clear.
But Liverpool has not lost at home in almost 45 matches.
Yeah, but that went through last season too. Like, that carried through a portion of last season. I do think they will slip again, like they have done in the past 3 times they've challenged for a title. I think it's going to happen again. Following them, I got Liverpool in second, followed by Chelsea, whose young English talent have been absolutely amazing this year. I got Tottenham turning it around, new manager making it up to 4th, Leicester in 5th, and Manchester United in 6th.
All right, well, talking about these new managerial changes, Tottenham hires a new man. How will that affect the Spurs season the rest of the year? Because right now they're currently struggling a whole lot, but a big game against West Ham this weekend.
This is a very interesting one. A very interesting time to change manager. Not only in the middle of the season, but at the end of international break, rather at the beginning, where he's been hired for a couple days now, and they have a game on Saturday. Very quick turnaround. I do think in the short term, especially the rest of the season and possibly into next, this will be a very positive thing. You hate to see Mauricio Pochettino go, but Jose Mourinho has been known for winning trophies, something that Tottenham has failed to do for the past 11 years.
So Tottenham has Lloris, has Kane. Is Pochettino no longer being the manager of this team, helping them get to that top 6 spot this year?
I think it is. If you look at Tottenham, they've got one of the most talented groups of players in the world. Harry Kane, Christian Eriksen. You forget about Tanguy Ndombele, who they got last transfer window. I think if you bring in Jose Mourinho, as Will said, he's got winning experience. He knows how to win, and I think he's just going to bring a new energy to this team. And what they need to do for this to be successful is they need to make at least one big move during the January transfer window. Because if they can pick something up, get Hugo Lloris back from injury, and just get a little bit more winning attitude into that locker room, they'll have a chance to win.
And really quick, even if it's not a player they bring in the January transfer window, they're looking at bringing Luis Campos as a sporting director from Lille in France. He is one of the most sought-after directors in football. Has made $646 million of profit. Headline names: Mbappe, James Rodriguez.
Well, a lot of big names coming out of France, a lot of big names in general. 26 match weeks to go, and that's all we have here from the pitch. Make sure to follow us on all social media platforms at 101 Sports. More to come on this episode, but for now, whose side are you on?
College basketball has already lived up to the hype as we've seen 3 different teams hold the #1 ranking in just 3 weeks. I'm joined by Zach Chofie and Connor Witso to break down the hardwood. So Connor, which freshman core has impressed you the most?
I got Kentucky, and here's why. The only starter on their team that is a freshman is Whitney. But if you look at their bench, there has only been one game this entire season where Kentucky has gone to someone that is not a freshman. All the other guys that have come off the bench are freshmen. Maxey, Brooks, I can never remember.
So you've been impressed with Kentucky 2 home games against Evansville and Utah Valley. Losing to Evansville and Utah Valley being a 3-point game with 40 seconds left. At home at Rupp Arena. Not impressed with me. I'm going the Texas Tech Red Raiders. This is a team that was in the national championship games a year ago, but graduated almost everyone. Lost 4 starters, lost their entire depth. Just Moretti is the only returning starter. They get 2 freshmen in the starting lineup with Shannon and Ramsey. Ramsey, one of the top scorers in the nation, averaging 20 points a game, shooting over 60% of the field on mostly jump shots. Then 3 freshmen off the bench. They're 3-0, 3 impressive wins, all by 25-plus points. Haven't played too many people yet, but I'm very excited to see where this Texas Tech Red Raiders go. A team that's not supposed to be that very good after losing almost their entire roster.
And can we also talk about who they've played this season? Because, most teams haven't been able to play very good teams, and Texas Tech is no exception.
You can't blame a team for winning every game by 25-plus points, and yet Kentucky can't beat Evansville, can barely beat Utah Valley.
All right, Chof. So who is looking like an early Wooden Award winner?
As Gus Johnson says, what Trenton makes, the world takes. And the world's going to take in the greatness of Myles Powell from Seton Hall out of Trenton, New Jersey.
Okay.
This kid can just score. Sprains his ankle in game number 2 of the season. Out supposed to be 6 to 8 weeks, supposed to be out? No. Comes back the next game against the #1 team, Michigan State. One of the top defenders, and Cassius Winston guards him. He drops 37.
And loses
37.
the game. And loses
37
the game.
against the #1 team in the country.
Good
37!
For you. You guys still lost. You guys still lost. Okay. I'm going to calm it down a little bit because my guy is for different reasons than that. Do I give Myles Powell the credit of shooting more than Cassius Winston? Yes, doing better in that stance. But we have to accept the fact that Cassius Winston just went through a tragic loss. His brother. I was unsure of whether to bring this up, the death of his brother. But at the end of the day, you do have to take that into account.
Torrey Smith did it. We saw it in the NFL.
Yeah.
Carry on Isaiah Thomas as well. Anyways.
Yeah. But it's been 11 days. He's not over this. And he probably won't be over this for the rest of the year and not going to be over ever for the rest of his life. Will it always affect how he plays? Probably not, but it is going to affect him for the rest of the season, all day, every day. So him putting up 40 field goal percentage and a 37% on three-pointers, being able to keep that up even after going through one of the hardest things that anyone can ever go through, that's why I give him the Wooden
Definitely
Award.
No reason.
Perseverance is a factor,
Cassius Winston's a great player.
Yeah.
No debate there. One of the best point guards in the country, but watch out for Myles.
All right. Well, we're going to round it off, Connor, with you. Which conference is the deepest and why?
I was debating between the Big Ten and the SEC, but at the end of the day, I'm going with the SEC, and here's why. They have currently 6 teams that are undefeated, not to mention one of the most competitive conferences in NCAA basketball throughout its entire history. And you cannot forget the fact that Auburn is undefeated with, I believe, 6-0, 5-0. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I went with SEC.
You're talking about
No doubt.
You're talking about teams playing weak mid-majors early in the year. We haven't gotten to conference play yet. I mean, you look at that. South Carolina lost to Boston University last night. You got Vanderbilt lost to Richmond. You had 3 teams lose to A10 teams. Alabama lost to Penn. Alabama lost to Penn at
All right,
home.
Zach, then who's your conference?
The Big East. I mean, you could pick the
Oh,
ACC.
my
You could pick the ACC almost any.
I'm going to the hospital because
You-
I'm about to have
easy,
a brain
easy.
aneurysm.
You could pick the
He's called
ACC.
the Big East.
You could pick the ACC almost any year, but with the Big East, you're looking at every single team with a chance to make the NCAA tournament this year.
Okay, good for you. You picked the Big East. The only teams that we can count is Butler, Xavier, Villanova, and DePaul. And the only reason you can count DePaul in is because they're 5-0. And the only win worth noting is Iowa, and Iowa sucks.
Well, it looks like we're going to have to take this one to the parking lot after this block ends, because the block may be over, but the show is not. Stay tuned. We'll be right back here with more one-on-one sports.
It's been a historic year for Elon athletics in the pros. George Kirby became Elon's first ever first-round pick in the MLB draft, going to the Seattle Mariners. Pitcher Kyle Brnovich went to the Angels. And offensive tackle Oli Udoh is currently enjoying his first pro season as a member of the Minnesota Vikings. Andrew, how historic is this talent pool for the Phoenix? And what do you expect from them at a professional level?
These are 3 exceptional talents, all for their own reasons. We could go on to list their accolades, and I'll list some of them for you right now. I had the pleasure of living with George Kirby and Kyle Brnovich freshman year. Great people, even better athletes, and even better people as well. So, 2 men absolutely deserving of all their accomplishments. Both are going to do big things. I remember clearly broadcasting the game where George Kirby threw 9 strikeouts, I think, against App State, and I knew this kid was special. ABCA Rawlings Atlantic All-America Second Team 2019, CAA Pitcher of the Year 2019, First Team All-CAA. May I go on about Kirby? Let's talk about Brnovich. CAA Rookie of the Year, First Team All-CAA in 2017, Third Team All-CAA 2019, Pitcher of the Week in April 2019, CAA Preseason Player of the Year, and then Oli Udoh. We talk about how great, Kirk Cousins is on the Vikings and the O-line, giving him time to throw the ball. I think Udoh could be one of those people on the blind side who just does a phenomenal job wherever he plays. I would love to see him, looking after Kirk Cousins in Minnesota. I could see him making a big impact from that position. All 3 of these players, though, absolutely phenomenal. Nothing but the best for them in their, future careers.
And they've done fantastic this year as well. George Kirby with the Everett Aqua Sox of the Northwest League. 23 innings pitched, just 6 earned runs, 25 strikeouts, and the biggest stat of all, no walks in 23 innings pitched. Kyle Brnovich was shut down after the draft. He really regressed in his senior year at a 3.66 ERA, but he had a 1.7 the year before, and really, a 3.66 is still amazing. Oli Udoh was the first draftee out of Elon since 2017. He's on the 56-man roster. These 3 are 3 special players and 3 special
I was
talents.
going to say, you say Brnovich regressed, but he still made all third-team CAA.
Exactly. That's what
nothing
happened.
to,
Exactly.
be ashamed of. All 3 of these athletes are phenomenal, and I'm proud as an Elon student to have such great athletes out there representing us in the pros when Elon, frankly, needs more professional athletes out there. We like to hype up our athletics sometimes, but this time we're putting our money where our mouth is. So watch out, professional world.
Exactly. We can't wait to see George Kirby on the mound for the M's, Kyle Brnovich on the mound for the Angels and OoO on the line for the Vikings. Thanks so much for joining us on this week's episode of 101 Sports.
If you want to see past episodes and bonus content, make sure to check us out on YouTube at youtube.com/1on1sports.
And make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at 101 Sports.
Until next time, whose side are you on?